After 3 long years of silence, the incredible moment a millionaire revealed his love for his wife. Jack Harrington stared at the empty walls of his sprawling home, each silent corner a reminder of his failures. The clamor of his once successful life in the tech industry now felt hauntingly distant. He had chased ambition so vigorously that he'd squandered the most precious part of his life, his relationship with Sarah. A chill crept into the air as he recalled the heated arguments, the bitter end of laughter, replaced by icy silence. Sarah, with her kind heart and bright smile, had stood steadfast, but Jack had been too absorbed in his own pursuits to notice her gradual retreat. He barely recognized the man in the mirror anymore, a self-made millionaire who had everything but love. A growing ache throbbed in his chest, feeding despair. The wealth and accolades he'd amassed felt like an empty trophy case. On that dreary afternoon, driven by an unbearable heaviness, he decided to clean out the attic, thinking it might distract him from the loneliness that pressed down like lead. As he rummaged through dusty boxes, he stumbled across Sarah's old journal, a tome filled with dreams he had long forgotten. Opening it, Jack was engulfed by the memories laid out in ink. Each page was a glimpse into her unwavering love, her hopes for a family, her vision of their future together. Laughter, adventure, and warmth spilled from the pages, juxtaposed with harsh reality, a powerful reminder of what he'd chosen: success over the simple joys of life. The entries swelled with her belief in him, and her sacrifices that now felt like bitter reminders of the joy he had allowed to slip through his fingers. Regret clung to him, choking every breath, as realization struck. He had not just lost a marriage, but he'd also lost the essence of himself. He felt a flicker of determination igniting alongside the guilt, stirring a plan within him to make amends. The town's harvest fair was approaching, a cherished tradition, a time for unity and reconnecting with what truly mattered. He envisioned standing before Sarah, baring his heart, expressing how desperately he longed to undo the damage. Could he transform their story of estrangement into one of redemption? Each ounce of hope invigorated him, yet doubt crept in more forcefully. As the fair approached, Jack found himself plagued by conversations that pierced his ambitions, discussions around the stage where success was measured not just by wealth, but by love, contributions, and compassion. He sensed their judgment as he overheard snippets among neighbors, voices tinged with skepticism. Did he even deserve a second chance? The fear gnawed at his insides, whispering lies of inadequacy, even as he longed to speak to Sarah and the community. Uncertainty coiled in his gut like a snake, and he teetered on a precipice, unsure if he could balance the scales of past failure against future hope. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important.
That's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each passing moment, the weight of his ambition and the depth of his love for Sarah surged within him, a tempest of emotion threatening to erupt. Standing before the crowd, Jack's heart raced, the air thick and suffocating. Eyes fixated on him, the silence screamed louder than any words. Would he find the courage to bridge the chasm of regret? Would his revelation bring her back or further shatter the remnants of their past? The uncertainty engulfed him, leaving only the raw edge of desperation, the thirst for a miracle hanging in the air as the crowd waited, holding their breath with him, pushing the limits of hope as he readied himself to speak. Jack stood at the center of the gathering, feeling every gaze piercing through him like daggers of expectation. The murmurs of judgment played like a cruel symphony in his ears, each note amplifying his fears. His pulse thundered in his head, nearly drowning out the sound of his thoughts, which raced faster than his heart. What if he stumbled? What if Sarah turned away? He had spent 3 long years torn between ambition and the love that had once defined him. Now it was time to face that fracture head-on. Taking a deep breath, he clenched his fists at his sides, feeling the formation of resolve combined with the pang of regret. The flash of lights from the cameras aimed at him felt blindingly invasive. Yet he found a renewed strength in his vulnerability. This was about more than his reputation. This was about reconciling with his own heart. He had to reclaim not just Sarah, but the man he had lost amid the clamor of success. As he began to speak, the words emerged hesitantly, carrying the weight of years unexpressed. "I've been lost," he started, the crowd silencing in anticipation. "Not just in my business, but in life itself. I thought success would fill the void, but I only ended up pushing away the person who means the most to me, my wife, my best friend, Sarah." He felt a rush of clarity washing over him. He caught a glimpse of Sarah in the front row, her expression unreadable. The worry lines around her eyes deepened as she listened. But there was something else there too, a flicker of surprise that ignited a fleeting spark of hope. Jack pressed on, allowing the truth to flow freely. "I chased the glow of accolades and the rush of business deals, believing that those things
would validate me. I didn't realize how much I had forfeited. I lost laughter, warmth, and something that is worth more than any amount of wealth, love." With each sentence, he unveiled the layers of his heart, confronting the darkness he had cocooned himself in. The audience shifted. Members of the community began to really listen. Jack was no longer just the successful millionaire, but a man seeking redemption. Confessions of his insecurities tumbled out as he revealed how he had let ambition eclipse their love story, each word stripping away the barriers he had created. "I am here today, not to ask you or Sarah for forgiveness, but to promise that I will fight for us," he continued, his voice trembling with emotion. Uncertainty surged within him, but he continued to push through. This was his moment for reclamation. "I won't stop working until I am worthy of our past and our future. I will build a life where love is the foundation, not merely an afterthought." The crowd exhaled collectively, and for the first time, Jack noticed the stirring of compassion in their eyes. It motivated him further, a surging tide of hope sweeping through him. He turned fully to Sarah, his heart laid bare. "I love you, Sarah. I've always loved you. Please, let me show you that I've changed." As he uttered those final words, the air crackled with anticipation. Jack braced himself, his heart pounding to a rhythm of impending vulnerability. Would Sarah see beyond his past failures? Would she recognize the potential of a new beginning? Yet, in the next moment, an unexpected sound echoed through the space. A rumbling whisper of discontent rippled from the back of the crowd. Someone dared to voice the doubts that clawed at the edges of his hopeful speech, challenging his claim of transformation. Jack's pulse raced anew, and he felt the ground shift beneath his feet. This was no longer just about reclaiming love. It was now a fight to prove that he was deserving of a second chance, not only to Sarah, but to himself. The time had come to face the ghosts of his past once and for all. Would he withstand the scrutiny and emerge victorious? Or would his fears swallow him whole, shattering the newly refurbished hope he clung to? Jack's heart pounded in his chest as the whisper from the back of the crowd grew louder, igniting the uncertainty that lingered just beneath the surface of his newfound resolve. "Your words are just that, words. What about your actions? How can we trust you?" The challenge was bold, and it hung in the air like a suspended note waiting to resolve. In that moment, Jack felt the truth of the accusation gel into reality. His past had been a litany of broken promises, and he questioned if his declarations echoed hollow, even to himself. Could he genuinely stake his entire being on words alone? The thought sent a shiver down his spine. He opened his mouth to respond, but found himself battling an internal storm. The audience was no longer just a sea of sympathetic faces. It had morphed into judges scrutinizing his sincerity. Jack had always been good at crafting a narrative, a skill that had served him well in business. But this was different. His future with Sarah hinged on authenticity, not rhetoric. What would he say that could cut through the skepticism? He considered the weight of authenticity. It was unsettling, yet liberating, a realization that he needed to put forth more than just his feelings. He needed to build a tangible bridge between his intentions and his actions. "Trust is earned," he finally said, each word deliberate. "I know that I've failed to uphold my promises in the past. I can't undo that. What I can do is acknowledge that I've neglected to prove my love to Sarah, or to you all, through my actions." He paused, scanning the faces in the crowd for signs of understanding. Sarah's eyes remained locked on his, a mix of emotions swirling within them. He felt an urge to abandon the stage and draw her close, yet he knew that he needed to confront this moment. "I've already begun taking steps to make amends, to myself and to my relationship with my wife." Jack's voice steadied as he spoke about his ongoing efforts, seeking therapy to understand his compulsions linked to his desire for validation, attending workshops to learn how to communicate better, and committing time in support groups to share both his triumphs and vulnerabilities. "Most importantly," I continued, his tone shifting from defensive to earnest, "to the doubters, to those who feel betrayed, and to Sarah. This isn't just my journey. If I want to rebuild what we had, I need your guidance, your patience, and, above all, your honesty about what comes next." The comment held a weight that reverberated through the audience. It was a direct call for accountability, not just for himself, but from everyone who had once celebrated his successes. Jack felt a flicker of hope as he spoke, realizing that while he was defending his transformation, he was also opening the door for a community that had shadows of their own. But before he could relish the moment, fear erupted with a swell of voices behind him. "You think we'll just take you back? It doesn't work like that. You need to show us you can change." There it was again, the doubt. But now it felt like a challenge rather than a rejection, and Jack's determination ignited. "I will show you, but first I need to demonstrate it to Sarah. I need to rebuild our trust." Jack's eyes found Sarah again, silently pleading for her perspective, hoping to gauge how she felt amid the upheaval. As judgment hung in the air, Jack realized that the crowd's participation mattered in defining his capability for change. He needed more than their words. He needed their expectations, their scrutiny, as fuel rather than fuel for doubt. This was a transformation forged not in solitude, but through a communal rebirth, where vulnerability and scrutiny merged. The tension hung thick, and Jack held the moment like a flame to be nurtured. Would they accept the hard and bare truth he offered? He caught a glimpse of Sarah's narrowing eyes, an ocean of uncertain feelings brimming beneath the surface. Would his declaration of accountability be enough to make her see the man he strived to be, or would the shadows of his past suffocate his chances? Just as he prepared for a response, an unexpected figure stepped into the light from the edge of the crowd. A figure that would add an element of surprise, an undefined thread woven into this delicate tapestry of reconciliation that Jack had only begun to unravel. As the figure stepped forward, Jack's heart skipped a beat, his breath catching in his throat. A familiar face emerged, piercing through the crowd's uncertainty like a bolt of lightning. A woman he had never expected to see again, not here, not now. It was Miriam, an old colleague from his former life in finance, and someone who had once been a source of both inspiration and temptation. Her presence was both a complication and a catalyst, pulling on threads best left untangled. The audience quieted, shifting their focus to her.
Miriam's deep-set eyes locked onto Jack's, and he could feel the weight of their shared history hanging in the air. Her expert poise hadn't dulled. It radiated a magnetic quality that reminded him of why he had once congregated his aspirations around her. But her sudden reappearance twisted the knife of anxiety deeper into him. What could she possibly want now, and what impact would this have on Sarah? "Jack," she said, her tone a practiced blend of warmth and authority. "I didn't mean to disrupt, but I had to say something." The air thickened with the promise of uncertainty. He found himself momentarily lost, wanting to shout, to dismiss her, or to run to Sarah. Instead, he stood rooted, weighing his options. The crowd sensed the shift, a collective inhale akin to a taut bowstring ready to snap. He had opened a door to vulnerability, which Miriam now threatened to swing wide. "Go on," he urged, forcing the words out and bracing for the unexpected truths they might reveal. "I came here today because I believed in your ability to rise above past mistakes," Miriam continued, her gaze still piercing. "But I also heard the voices of our past, the missed opportunities, and the unfulfilled dreams we shared." Jack felt a nauseating mixture of nostalgia and fresh excitement wash over him. He didn't want to rehash moments that had been buried under layers of regret. The last thing he needed was someone resurrecting lost ambitions. He needed to attend to the woman present, the one he had torn apart with his negligence. "Miriam, I appreciate your confidence in me," he countered, as steadily as he could, forcing himself to hold her gaze. "But this is about my wife, my relationship. I'm focusing on being a better man, for her, for us. The past is no longer mine to dissect." "But isn't it?" she pressed, taking a half-step closer, the crowd visibly leaning in. "Your past shapes your future. The man I see here, someone open, willing to listen, could use some reminders of what he's truly capable of." Jack's mind raced. Could he leverage her presence as something constructive? She had insights into his former self, a self that thrived on cunning and charm. Yet he couldn't afford to go back to that place, where appearances masked the heart. It was a dangerous game. "Jack," a tight voice broke in. Sarah stood, her expression darkening. "Are you really taking advice from her?" Jack turned fully to face her now, the gravity of her question pressing down. This could either be a moment of reconciliation or a collapse. Could he embrace the potential in what Miriam offered, or would it prove divisive in his fragile rebuilding of trust? Realizing that every choice he made from this point forward was critical, he took a deep breath, inhaling a sense of clarity amidst the turmoil. "I want to hear what you have to say, Miriam, but I need to place Sarah's voice above all." The words landed heavily, a commitment made in front of everyone. But as he spoke them, he sensed the unraveling threads of connections he had woven over the years, both with Sarah and with his aspirations, all teetering on a precipice. What would it take to turn this uncertain alliance into something supportive rather than destructive? He felt the need to protect Sarah, but as the echoes of his past collided with his present, he realized the challenge ahead would require more than just promises. It would demand clarity in the voice of the woman he loved. Just as he opened his mouth to reassure Sarah that he was still focused on their journey, Miriam interrupted, a quiet challenge lingering in the air. "So we'll see who really listens?" In that moment, Jack was struck with the understanding that navigating this turning point would not come easy. And looming behind it all was both chaos and opportunity, one that pulled at the very fabric of his resolve. Would he emerge a conqueror from this confrontation, or would it become yet another revelation of his past failures? The stakes had never felt higher, and a deeper reckoning was inescapably on the horizon. The silence stretched, thickening between Jack and Sarah like fog, threatening to obscure the truth he desperately wanted to voice. Jack knew this moment could define him, standing at a crossroads, torn between the allure of past ambitions and the simplicity of present love. Sarah's eyes darted between him and Miriam, searching for reassurance, battling a storm of uncertainty. "Jack, listen to me," he heard Miriam say softly, yet there was an edge of authority in her voice. "It's your
choice to disregard your past entirely because it feels easier. But sometimes the very things we want to shed hold the keys to who we are meant to become." Jack felt a prick of irritation at her insistence, but recognized the validity of her point. Could he truly sever ties with his former self? Looking into Sarah's concerned gaze anchored him, grounding his thoughts. She was the priority, and every word he uttered had to reflect a commitment to her, to healing. Could he find a way to integrate what he learned into a better partner? "Every ambition I chased led to sacrifices that I now wish I hadn't made," he admitted, turning to his wife. "It took losing sight of what mattered for me to even grasp this, but I'm no longer willing to allow that ambiguity to linger any longer." He stole a glance at Miriam, whose expression was softened now, perhaps understanding. "Jack," Sarah began, her voice wavering, laced with both fear and anticipation. "I'm here, Sarah," he urged, heart pounding. "I'm right here. I've slipped, I've messed up, but I'm recommitting to you, to us." The pressure of vulnerability was raw, yet there was strength within it. There was an opportunity for growth, one that required authenticity rather than facades. Miriam coughed lightly but remained close, her presence both supportive and scrutinizing. "Sometimes what we regret becomes a powerful tool if we allow it," she interjected. "You don't have to stand alone at this junction." Jack's instincts fought against the compulsion to seek her insight. Still, he felt the magnetic pull of her wisdom. It was a faint echo of who he once aspired to be. The realization struck him. Perhaps there was an opportunity for mutual discovery, but only if he approached this with careful intent. "I appreciate your intention to help, Miriam," he said evenly, "but I also recognize the potential this could have to derail the trust I'm rebuilding with Sarah. My commitment is to her, above all else. I won't allow history to disrupt this fragile moment." The air between him and Sarah shifted again, her expression softening as realization dawned upon her. Here was a man resolute in the face of his tumultuous past, one who faced the shadows without hiding. The connection rekindled in her eyes gave Jack the strength he needed. He stepped closer, offering a gentle hold of her hand, signaling that he was steadfast. Then the unexpected occurred. Miriam stepped back, a respectful admission of defeat in the face of their raw sincerity. "I'll respect that," she said, her voice now quieter. "Perhaps I have overstepped." "I'm not rejecting you," Jack replied, urgency in his tone. "I just need stability right now, the clarity to understand who I am and what I hope to achieve moving forward. I can't simultaneously battle the fraying ties to my past while striving for a future with Sarah." As they all settled into an uncomfortable silence, Jack's mind began to race with questions. What did moving forward mean? What if courage wasn't just letting go of aspirations but integrating them? It could mean stepping up for his future while honoring the lessons from his past. Maybe connecting with Miriam was unavoidable but necessary? Jack sensed a deeper unraveling of his beliefs, an invitation to explore a part of himself long forgotten, buried under the weight of financial successes and personal failures. The path would dimly light as he went, but he understood now that to forge ahead with Sarah, he must confront his past, inching back toward self-awareness without diminishing what he had found in his marriage. As Miriam turned away, leaving him to grapple with this inner paradox, Jack felt a flicker of resolve. Whatever lay ahead, he would face it, not just as a survivor, but as a man determined to rise from that pivotal moment. But would the reconciliation of his past wisdom serve to elevate their future? Would he emerge transformed, ready to meet this challenge head-on? Or would old patterns threaten his newfound commitment to Sarah? In the deep recesses of his mind, Jack sensed the possibility of a connection yet unexplored, one that could redefine everything he believed about himself. The test was yet to come, and he would face it, unflinchingly, curiosity driving him toward a challenge that loomed closer by the day. Jack's resolve solidified into a tangible force as he and Sarah stood together, hands interlocked. The butterflies flitting around the edges of his stomach reminded him of the urgency that forced this moment. Standing in the stark glow of realization, he felt as if the past 2 years had been a slow unraveling of a tightly wound thread, and now he stood at the brink, needing to stitch those fragments together rather than discard them entirely. "Let's go out for coffee," he suggested, the words spilling out with a newfound optimism. "I want to spend some time just talking, just us." The thought of reconnecting over something as simple as coffee while processing their next steps was a grounding idea. Sarah's eyes brightened, the apprehension melting slightly as a smile crept onto her lips. "That sounds nice," she replied, her fingers squeezing his. Jack felt encouraged. Engagement in an activity as normal as a coffee run was what they both needed to ground themselves amidst the tension that had previously engulfed their home. As they strolled down the sleepy streets, free from the weight of obligations and looming deadlines, Jack was acutely aware of the significance of this moment. The world spun around them, but their path was singular, marked by an undulating rhythm built on understanding and love. It dawned on him that embracing his past wasn't an admission of failure. It was a testament to resilience. "Do you remember when we went to that little cafe after your first promotion?" Sarah asked, pulling him out of his thoughts. "You had that ridiculous mint chocolate chip coffee that you claimed was the best thing ever." Jack laughed.
Of course. You nearly choked on your vanilla latte when I insisted I could replicate it at home. The memories crashed into him like waves, each blissful recollection a vital stitch in the fabric of their shared narrative. It reminded him that their journey was still rife with potential, something he needed to believe he could co-create alongside Sarah. The notion of integration settled heavily on his shoulders. He couldn't entirely abandon past desires, ambitions, or emotions. Indeed, those fragments were integral to his identity and, in turn, his relationship with Sarah. As they entered the cafe, Jack noticed the small details. A couple laughing in the corner, a barista humming to himself, the comforting aroma of roasted coffee beans wafting through the air. He felt at home. Their table nurtured quiet intimacy, a cozy cocoon in the midst of bustling life outside. Amid steaming cups and soft conversations, Sarah placed her hands on the table, a sense of focus radiating from her. "Jack, I appreciate everything you've said. I do. But I need to ask. You mentioned your past earlier. Are you okay sharing what that looks like? I think it might help me understand what you really mean by moving forward." The question landed between them like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples through their conversation. Jack's throat felt dry, but he met her gaze with determination. To reveal the scars of his past meant risking vulnerability, something he had shied away from for too long. Yet the desire for connection outweighed his fear. "I chased success feverishly, missed birthdays, our anniversary, lost touch with who I wanted to be. I thought if I achieved enough, I would feel whole. But at what cost? You became a shadow in the background," he confessed, the memories spilling forth unbidden. Jack saw the impact of his words unfold in Sarah's expression, concern mingled with empathy, a reflection of her own pain, but increasingly fortified by understanding. In that moment, he began to see them as a team rather than separate entities grappling with their individual doubts. But would opening up to Sarah about his failures be enough to bridge the chasm created by his relentless ambition? Jack wrestled internally, grappling with the question of whether he was prepared to risk being fully seen, flaws visible alongside his complexities. As they finished their coffees and stepped back onto the street, the clouds began to part. A distant rumble of thunder echoed the caution blooming within him. Could reconciliation come at a price? The path was clearer, but still uncertain, teetering on the edge of possibilities. Would that clarity be enough to birth a renewed bond, or would ghosts of the past linger, threatening his renewed connection with Sarah? The tension tightened within him, ready and waiting for that inevitable choice that loomed. What lay ahead promised to challenge everything he thought he knew about love and ambition, an arena where the stakes had never been higher. Jack steeled himself. He
was ready to dive into the depths of that inquiry. Would he discover strength in vulnerability, or would the past pull him under? Jack took a deep breath as he stepped outside the cafe, the brisk air invigorating yet laden with introspection. The aftermath of their conversation lingered. It wasn't merely the chatter of a couple at a coffee shop. It felt like an unearthing of sentiments long buried, a shared excavation into the bedrock of their relationship. He could sense the shift, a loosened grip on the past, yet uncertainty hovered like a storm cloud, threatening to sap any rebuilding energy they had mustered. "Can we walk a bit?" Sarah asked, her voice soft but steady. It wasn't just a question, it was an invitation for continuity. "Sure," he replied, savoring the resolve in her tone. They meandered down a side street lined with cherry blossom trees, the petals swirling around them as a pair of children chased after a rogue breeze. The innocence of the scene stood in sharp contrast to the tumult brewing within him. Jack wrestled with the notion that vulnerability might not only heal but also expose. Vulnerability meant courage, but it also meant risk. Risk of falling apart again, of opening wounds that had yet to fully scab. "I want to know about your work," Sarah said suddenly, redirecting his spiraling thoughts. "You said during coffee that your obsession with success cost us. What do you want to do with it now?" The directness of her question felt like an anchor. "I want to redefine it, to carve out a purpose that resonates not just for me, but for us." The words poured from him, imbued with a mixture of relief and trepidation. "Redefine? How?" she pressed, her curiosity piquing. "I've spent so much time climbing the corporate ladder, but I never paused to ask why. My metrics of success were entirely mine. Profit margins, accolades. I forgot the people behind the numbers." Each revelation felt akin to an excavation, chipping away the stone encasing his memories. "I want to be motivated by meaningful work. Perhaps start mentoring young professionals. Help them avoid my mistakes." A contemplative silence settled between them, the kind that allowed for breathing space while still recognizing the weight of the previous discourse. Sarah nodded slowly, her gaze thoughtful. "I think that's important," she finally replied. "But I'd like to know, are you prepared for that path? It sounds like a huge shift." Prepared. The words sank in, ballooning questions that hovered on the periphery of his consciousness. Was he really ready to change? Jack felt the tug of his ambition, its siren call whispering seductions of success still. "I don't know," he confessed, "but I think it's what I want. I think it's what we need." His admission startled him. The realization that he might be entwining his personal desires with their shared future left him exposed, yet exhilarated. Striking this balance would demand conscious effort, a retraining of the mind. Their walk continued, punctuated by stretches of silence where Jack wrestled with impending choices. "What if I fail?" he mused aloud, words rushing as emotions poured like a river. "What if I fall back into old habits?" "Then we'll deal with it together," Sarah replied softly, her unwavering confidence filling the gaps of his insecurities. He regarded her with newfound appreciation, a surge of gratitude sweeping over him. She had anchored him throughout this tumultuous journey, and in her tranquility he found solace. As they rounded a corner, they stumbled upon a local art exhibit. "Let's take a look," Sarah suggested, pulling him in. The colorful canvases spoke to the notion of creativity and self-expression, mirroring his emerging desire to cultivate a fuller, more connected identity beyond corporate confines. As they meandered through the art-filled space, Jack felt a flicker of inspiration. The artworks represented a breadth of emotions, a celebration of imperfections. Artists had bared their souls. How could he allow himself to remain concealed? With every stroke, every vivid color, the walls he had carefully built began to crack. The connection he felt with Sarah deepened, each exhibit fueled by prospects of shared dreams. Maybe redefining success included not only his direction, but also embracing vulnerability as part of his new narrative. As they left the gallery, Sarah turned to him. What if you held a workshop for others seeking to find their why? Maybe not everyone can afford to lose years like we did. The proposition planted a seed in his mind, igniting sparkles of hope. Could he truly help others navigate the chaos that often ensued behind the pursuit of achievement? Jack locked eyes with her, exhilaration and uncertainty trembling in his chest. I don't know the answers yet, but I think I'm ready to explore it, together. They stepped through the gallery doors, and at that moment, the sun broke through the clouds, illuminating the path ahead. Jack realized they were no longer merely trying to bridge a gap. They were on the precipice of redefining their world, together. But could the shift from ambition to purpose be steady enough to sustain them where ambition had faltered? Just then, as they walked farther down the street, a sharp voice interrupted their reverie. A figure from Jack's past emerged, his presence commanding the air around them. The moment felt electric. Would this encounter threaten their fragile peace or offer unexpected clarity? Jack's heart raced as he recognized the figure approaching, a familiar silhouette draped with confidence and sharp edges. It was Mark, his former mentor, and a man embodying everything Jack had once aspired to be. An image of polished success with a magnetic charm. Yet, at that moment, standing next to Sarah, Jack felt an unexpected wave of resentment wash over him. "What are the odds?" Mark exclaimed, with a disarming grin, his eyes sparkling with that all-too-confident charisma. Jack could feel Sarah tighten her grip on his arm, sensing the shift in his mood. "Mark," Jack managed, his voice steadying as he forced a smile. "What brings you here?" "Oh, just enjoying the art scene," Mark shrugged dismissively, but the glint in his eyes suggested he was playing by his own rules. "How's the corporate world treating you? Quite the fall from grace, huh?" The words were playful, but the undercurrent of condescension stung. Jack felt his pulse quicken as a familiar rush of anger bubbled up. A year ago, he might have deflected the insult, but now, armed with newfound clarity, he pondered how to respond. Should he react defensively or rise above? "Actually, I've decided to take a step back," Jack replied, an edge of defiance creeping into his voice. "I'm focusing on what really matters." "Sounds like a midlife crisis to me," Mark chuckled, his tone dripping with derision. "Don't forget the ambition that got you here. You were always the best of us. Didn't think you'd throw in the towel so easily." Jack locked eyes with Sarah, and in her gaze he gleaned something he hadn't anticipated, a quiet confidence that urged him to stand his ground. "It's not throwing in the towel, it's choosing a different path," he countered, channeling the resolve that had been brewing within him. "Sounds like a midlife crisis to me," Mark chuckled, his tone dripping with derision. "Don't forget the ambition that got you here. You were always the best of us. Didn't think you'd throw in the towel so easily." Jack locked eyes with Sarah, and in her gaze he gleaned something he hadn't anticipated, a quiet confidence that urged him to stand his ground. "It's not throwing in the towel, it's choosing a different path," he countered, channeling the resolve that had been brewing within him. "Success isn't just about income now, it's about impact." Mark's expression shifted, a flicker of genuine surprise cutting through the bravado. For a brief moment, Jack felt exhilaration swell in him, not from Mark's approval, but from his own conviction in his words. However, the moment was fleeting. Doubt clawed its way back as he considered the potential judgment that could follow. "Impact," Mark repeated, eyebrows raised. "That's a nice sentiment to have, but how do you plan to pay the bills? Dreams don't fund themselves, Jack." The sneer, disguised as concern, ignited a spark within Jack. Was Mark right? Could he actually sustain the lofty ambitions of meaningful work without the financial anchor he had always relied on? "You know, sometimes it's not about the money. It's about alignment with who you really are," he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. This was unfamiliar territory. Jack felt exposed, bearing emotions he had tucked away for far too long. His voice held a firmness as he continued. "I'm ready to explore connections that matter, mentorship, community, real conversations. They're worth far more than a hefty paycheck." Mark shook his head, amusement dancing in his eyes. "Good luck with that. When the bills start piling up, let's see how noble that sounds." Jack's heart raced with frustration as Mark turned to Sarah, smirking. "And you, are you really okay with him abandoning the only path he's known?" The challenge felt like a direct assault, testing the very essence of the changes Jack was attempting to embrace. Could Sarah validate his journey, or would Mark's words plant seeds of doubt? She took a step forward. "It's not about abandoning the past. It's about building something better." Jack turned to her, a rush of gratitude washing over him. Here was his anchor, unwavering. The storm. Mark's expression faltered, a momentary crack breaking the facade of superior confidence. "Interesting. We'll see how long you last. Enjoy your philosophical ventures," Mark retorted, before striding away, leaving an electrified silence in his wake. Jack stood rooted, clenching his fists as he let the encounter settle in. It was more than a confrontation. It was a catalyst that magnified his uncertainties while illuminating his intentions. The exhilarating rush of daring to confront Mark slipped away to a daunting cavern of self-doubt. "That was intense," Sarah said softly. "Yeah," Jack exhaled slowly. "I thought I had moved beyond his shadow. Evidently not." "Maybe there's still some unfinished business there," she suggested. "What if this was just a nudge to find your voice? Perhaps Mark's voice no longer needs to dictate your path." Jack contemplated her words, feeling the weight of his ambitions yet again pressing down on him. To emerge truly transformed, he needed to redefine not just what success meant, but also who he carried in his heart. He felt the friction of inner conflict and growing determination. Could he truly break the chains of Mark's influence and pursue his path intact? "Let's take a moment," Sarah urged gently, guiding him away from the gallery. "Step back, breathe, and think about what this means for you." As they moved away from the commotion of their encounter, the air felt thick with unresolved tension. Jack wasn't sure where this realization would lead, but the path ahead seemed less defined, more vulnerable. Just then, the phone in Jack's pocket vibrated, cutting through his reverie. A message flashed on the screen from a familiar name. "We need to talk. It's important." His pulse quickened and dread settled in. What unexpected challenge awaited him now, and would he be ready to face it head-on? Jack stared at the message on his phone, a blend of curiosity and trepidation washing over him. The name, David Pendleton, stirred memories of boardrooms filled with tension, deals struck at lightning speed, and late nights that blurred the lines between ambition and obsession. David had once been a partner in his journey, a mentor who had believed in Jack's potential. But after their last explosive conversation, they had fallen out of touch. The mere thought of reconnecting felt like prying open a dormant wound. "What's wrong?" Sarah asked, noting the sudden shift in his demeanor. "It's David. He wants to meet," he replied, the gravity of his own words settling in. After everything that happened, I didn't expect to hear from him again. What do you think he wants? She probed, her eyes scanning his face for a hint of emotion. Jack shrugged, masking the worry that gnawed at him. I have no idea, but I can't help but think it's about the business. We left things unresolved. Or it could be about something else, she suggested, her voice a gentle nudge. Maybe this is the time to reclaim your narrative, to clarify what you
stand for. He contemplated her words, running his fingers through his hair. The unresolved tension with David and Mark felt intertwined, coiling around him like a vine, choking his newfound freedom. Will I even know what to say? He wondered aloud, the anxiety creeping from the pit of his stomach. You know your story, Jack, Sarah encouraged. Trust in your journey. They don't define you anymore. With a decisive nod, Jack resolved to meet David. Perhaps this was his moment to confront not just the mess of his past, but also the expectations he had tethered himself to. He texted a quick confirmation for tomorrow afternoon, the weight of his decision leaving him both exhilarated and terrified. The next day brought with it a mix of nervous energy and anticipation. He had made a list of points he wanted to address, a conversation about forgiveness, professionalism, and the future he envisioned for himself. Yet as he sat at the cafe waiting for David, a gnawing doubt trickled in. Would he be able to stand firm against any pushback? He recalled Mark's words, the way they had attempted to poke holes in his conviction. When David arrived, he walked in with an air that demanded attention. Tailored suit, confident strides, the well-practiced smile. For a moment, Jack was plunged back into the old routine, the familiar aura of authority clawing at his resolve. As they exchanged pleasantries, David's gaze bore into him, searching for something beneath the surface. Jack, David began, his tone lighter than their previous interactions, I've seen you've taken a step back. I wanted to catch up and understand your perspective. Well, it's a bit complex, Jack replied, his voice measured. He could feel the remnants of self-doubt bubble beneath his newfound clarity. But I'm focusing on what matters. I've realized I need to align my actions with my values. Values? Huh, David mused, clearly intrigued. That sounds like the kind of platitude you read in a book on self-help. What's this really about? Jack could sense the skepticism, the doubt threading David's words. But this time, rather than retreating into unworthiness, he felt a surge of determination rise within him. It's not a platitude if it's rooted in authenticity. I'm not just looking to climb the corporate ladder anymore. I want to build something meaningful. David leaned back, momentarily taken aback. The tension in his posture revealed both surprise and a flicker of respect. Interesting. But tell me, Jack, can passion pay the bills? Without a moment's hesitation, Jack responded, sometimes passion leads to greater resources than slow climb through status. I know this because I've been where you are. I want to create a different path, one that impacts lives. David regarded him thoughtfully, his silence drawing down the veil of the past between them. As they continued to talk, Jack laid bare his ideas, his aspirations, and the brand he wanted to create. It was liberating, a profound catharsis of ambition tempered with necessity. Then, in a moment of vulnerability, Jack made a choice. This isn't just about business anymore. It's about integrity, something I lost sight of in our world. I'm starting to see that I need to stay true to my passions, not just yours or anyone else's. David's resolve flickered. So you're saying you're done letting others dictate your choices? Exactly, Jack affirmed, the truth resonating within him, solidifying his stance. But just as he felt the thrill of empowerment, the conversation took an unexpected turn. David leaned in slightly, his expression shifting subtly. Jack, you do realize I'm not just your mentor, right? I'm also someone who manipulates market dynamics and people. How can you ensure you won't end up burned again? The question loomed heavy, dredging up old fears of betrayal and inadequacy. Jack's heart raced, the familiar doubt coiling back in. How could he assure himself or anyone of that? As he took a deep breath, he realized this moment, this confrontation, was not about defenses and justifications. It was about owning his truth in the face of uncertainty. Would he let fear dictate his path, or would he forge ahead? Suddenly, the old adage echoed in his mind. The moment of truth had arrived. Jack leaned forward, ready to embrace whatever came next, feeling acutely aware that the answers he sought lay not in external validation, but in the resolve he carried within. The cafe buzzed with life around them, but all Jack could focus on was the rising tide of realization. What was David really after, and how would Jack respond? Jack's heart pounded against his ribcage, the pulse of uncertainty reverberating through him like a drum. David's words hung heavy in the air, each syllable laced with challenge. But this confrontation was a test he had been preparing for, unknowingly, with every intention he had voiced to Sarah, every step they had taken together since that fateful day at the harvest fair. "How can I ensure I won't end up burned again?" Jack repeated, almost as if the answer was hiding in the question itself. "By knowing your worth and setting your boundaries," came the steadfast response from within. It was a mantra he had been cultivating, an affirmation of the self-respect he had neglected. "I won't allow myself to be co-opted by misaligned ambitions anymore," Jack declared, his voice steady, resonating with an authenticity he had felt growing within him. "I'm building something that reflects my values, not just those driven by profit. I'm more than a figure on a balance sheet. I'm a man who wants to make an impact." David narrowed his eyes slightly, gauging Jack's commitment. "And what if it doesn't pay off? What if it fails?" "Then I won't stop learning," Jack replied, feeling the nerves morph into unyielding resolve. "Failure is part of the process. I've been successful in business, but I failed in love, and I vowed never to repeat it. Every misstep has afforded me the clarity I needed." Silence charged the air between them, but
Jack refused to back down. He had a life to claim, defined not by monetary success, but by genuine fulfillment. Each moment spent in the cafe sharpened his focus on reclaiming his narrative. "And what of today?" David finally opened up, curiosity edging into his demeanor. "Do you really think you can make more than you ever did by aligning purpose and passion?" "I believe in it. I've tasted the emptiness of success devoid of meaning. I refuse to return," Jack stressed, emboldened by the conviction throbbing in his veins. "My true wealth lies in connection, purpose, and my commitment to my wife. Sarah believes in me, and that belief fuels my journey forward." The ambiance shifted as David leaned in, an unexpected flicker of respect crossing his features. Jack seized on the moment, pushing further. "If I falter, it won't be from lack of conviction. It'll become an experience to grow from. I'm no longer willing to chase empty accolades." David's smile twisted into contemplation. "I thought you were just talking sentimentally. You're being serious." "More serious than ever," Jack affirmed, feeling the stirring of strength emerge from honesty. "My choices shape who I am beyond the corporations or projections. It's rooted in understanding what resonates with my spirit and echoes in the lives of others. I've been hard at work reshaping my life and career, starting with mentoring and guiding young professionals." "Mentoring? You've got it all figured out," David replied, half smirking, half impressed as he leaned back, reflecting on the dynamic before him. "Just ensure you're prepared for the unexpected." "I'm ready for anything that comes my way, be it misalignment in values or personal discontent," Jack proclaimed, newfound confidence cracking through the earlier apprehension. "Let me pose a question, David. What have you learned? Will you still think of success as just the numbers?" Jack's words prompted David to pause, though he attempted to exude a cool demeanor. This conversation mattered, not only to Jack's future, but also to the crossroads David faced between rigid ambition and authentic engagement. "I've played the game, Jack, but it's becoming clearer that this path may not be the only one. You surprise me by suggesting there are choices that extend beyond the dollar signs," David conceded directly, his edgy confidence wavering for a breath of sincerity. Before Jack could respond, his phone buzzed, a message from Sarah. A single word glimmered on the screen: proud. A wave of warmth washed over him.
Here was validation not from the man across the table, but from the woman who had stood beside him through thick and thin. She believed in his metamorphosis. That, Jack gestured toward his phone, that is the foundation for what I'm building. A network of connection, a community where aspirations converge towards authenticity and integrity. He could sense the shift in David's posture, a slow realization dawning. This was no longer just a business talk. It was Jack standing on the precipice of who he had become, fully in control of his narrative.
"You really mean it, don't you?" David remarked. His voice softened, more respectful than dismissive. "Absolutely," Jack affirmed, recognizing that David was beginning to comprehend the transformative journey Jack had embarked upon. There's no higher return on investment than nurturing relationships anchored in honesty. As I step away from past definitions of success, I invite you to join in considering that perspective. As they continued conversation about this new alignment, it was clear that Jack had transitioned from the troubled partner who had once wilted under pressure. He was now the architect of his destiny. Jack's heart swelled. That day wasn't just about confronting David, but rather demonstrating to himself that he held the key to his evolution. He felt lighter, more engaged, and, most importantly, entirely unique in this endeavor to redefine success. As they parted ways after the meeting, Jack made a conscious decision to cultivate relationships that nurtured authenticity and transparency. He stepped outside, the sun illuminating his path forward, resonating with the sense of purpose he had reclaimed. "Are you ready?" Sarah asked, excitement radiating from her as she stood waiting by the cafe's entrance. "More than ever," Jack replied, the confidence rolling off his tongue like the warmth of the sun. "I've laid a foundation today, one that won't be easily swayed." Their smiles exchanged, brimming with renewed possibilities. They walked hand in hand, a palpable connection forged between them, defined by understanding, growth, and love. A testament to the journey they could conquer together. The past no longer tethered Jack. It had become a canvas upon which he would paint the life yet to come. With unyielding integrity, delight and vulnerability, and support shared with Sarah, he felt equipped to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they ventured into the next chapter, Jack quietly reaffirmed his commitment not just to love, but also to purpose, allowing hope to flourish endlessly. The journey wasn't merely about reconciling ambition with love. It was about conquering silos, embracing failures, and transforming dreams into vibrant realities. Jack had arrived at the transformative juncture he had long sought, marking the culmination of introspection with action. He had achieved clarity and conviction, stronger than ever as his heart pulsed with possibilities. He turned to Sarah, cradling her hand as they walked into the distance, ready to weave a narrative that honored their hopes, dreams, and unwavering belief in each other. Every challenge, every voice of doubt had become the cornerstone of who he had developed into, a married couple empowered to forge a legacy of authenticity and connection in a world yearning for such love. This was merely the beginning. Now it's your turn. If you found inspiration in Jack's journey, or if you're craving more transformative stories, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional journeys. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these powerful narratives reach more spirited hearts just like yours. Comment your thoughts and theories on this conclusion. We want to hear how Jack's story resonates with you. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to understand that overcoming personal challenges can lead to profound transformation. This is the moment to show your support, to help others reclaim their paths, and to remind the world of the power of authentic love and ambition. Don't wait even one more second. Let's continue this journey together.